Hey guys, welcome back to another styling CSS tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking about selectors and how to use them in CSS. So I'm just going to create a folder called CSS Selectors, and you probably would have seen me use these before. They're basically just how I can actually call how I can reference a HTML element from my CSS. So let's just call this selectors, and yeah, I'm actually going to create a separate CSS file just so it's even clearer. So let's just go over to here and link that in. Really simple. We just do that, and you can actually make this whatever you want, but I've already called it style.css, so it's fine. And yeah, let's just go to selectors. Okay, so there's three main types of selectors. There are the actually, let me write this in CSS. So there are the element selectors, we have the class selectors, and the ID selectors. And I'll show you guys how to use each of these. So the element selector is basically referring to every element of the kind. So if we have a bunch of divs, like let's just call this div 1, div 2, and div 3, you can reference every single one of these divs by using the div element selector, just like that. And then what I can do is set all of these to have like a height of 400 pixels and a width of 400 pixels. And then let's also give them let's just give them a border so they're clear to see. 1px solid black. So now you should see that they each get their own border, and let's also just put a break between them so that they don't overlap each other, like that. Okay, there we go. So now you can see that they actually have we just targeted every single div with this specific div, like the div element selector. So now I'm going to talk about the class selector. So let's say we want div 1 and div 2 to have a certain font style or certain background color. So what we can do is we can actually apply a class. So let's just call this special div. We can apply this class to both of them by just setting the class attribute to be the same thing, and then we can reference this by doing dot and then special div. So this dot is actually very important because it shows it's a class. And then what we can do is these divs are still going to have this div these div style applied to them, but they're also going to have these special div styles applied on top of them. So we can like override the width. If we want this to be 300, you can see that these change, but we want to just actually change that background color. So let's just make that background color blue. So now you can see, actually wait, let me make it let's just make it a better color. Like, let's have cornflower blue. Okay, there we go. So you can see that these divs now actually have a special background color. So you use classes when you want to target multiple items, but not every single element of that type, because use div for basically everything. Finally, what you can do is you can actually target a specific ID. So this has a class of special div, and then let's also give it an ID of div 1. So now you can only assign one unique ID to one unique div. So you see, if I try and give the same ID to both, and then actually wait, let me just do that afterwards. Okay, so we have our ID, and to reference this ID you use a hashtag and then hashtag div1, and let's say we want the text inside of this to be a different size. So we can do font size, and then let's do large, and oh, that did not do anything. Maybe we want it to be like 300 pixels or something. Oh, let's just make it 100. Okay, yeah, so now you can see the font size is much larger in this div. And you can also see if I change the background color to orange, it's actually going to override it. So that's another thing to be aware of. The specificity, that's what it's called, goes element, then class, then ID. And it's basically just saying which styles will override others. And the top specificity is actually inline CSS. So if I go over to here and then change this background color to green, that's also going to override it. So you can see I can change this to whatever I want. Like if I made this like pink, it's not going to do anything because this is actually overriding this. But that's like a topic for another video, so I won't talk about that too much here. But anyways, finally I want to show you that if I try and apply the same ID to multiple divs, then it shouldn't actually let me but I guess since it's working here, so it works in CSS, but then if you try and reference it in JavaScript, you're going to end up with problems, because the whole point of an ID is that it only works with one specific thing because you use it to target elements. So yeah, that was basically the different selectors in CSS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in a future tutorial. Bye.